What's going on, y'all? This is Michael Miles back with the Plot Twist 215, and today I am bringing you a movie review of The Flash. Let me first say that and just acknowledge, get it out there that I am late with this one. All right. So I put out something on the Plot Twist 215 IG page the day that I wanted to go see the movie in my stories, and I said, listen, I'm going to see The Flash, movie review coming. And I did not get to it, but today is the day because I want to make do on my word. So today we're going to make this review about The Flash. But before we get into that, I want to remind you to subscribe to the page if you have not done so already. You can also follow the Plot Twist 215 on Instagram. Links to all that stuff will be in the description of this video. But please make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get notifications about future videos. And yeah, make sure you do that. But first up, the numbers. So the Flash opening weekend opened up with a little over $55 million. Now, when you compare that to the opening for Aquaman, for Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, like things like that, this is definitely, I think, on the lowest grossing opening weekend out of all those films. Sometimes those in Justice League. Which numbers don't always tell you everything, but sometimes they can tell you a little bit. So it didn't really do that well comparatively to some of the other films, again amongst the other Justice League members, but you take that as you will. Up until the day though, it's total gross I see here is $268 million with worldwide, internationally 160, and now domestically, meaning here in the States, with a little over 107 million. But again, you take that as you will. But that's where it fell in terms of the numbers when it opened and when it came out and to date. So let me first say that before I went to go see this, I was a bit optimistic, right? In my opinion, I feel like DC wasn't putting out the best stuff. Obviously, the Snyderverse Justice League film was definitely great, but DC is just in a weird space right now in terms of the reboot and everything like that was going on. And so when the trailer dropped, I said, yo, this looks like this could be pretty good. And so and I say that to give you an idea of what I was expecting. So I went in there with a sense of optimism about what I was going to experience before seeing this film. So first and foremost, let's get into some of the things I think that were the strengths of the film. Number one is the storyline. Now, I'm sure there are people out there who may disagree with me on this point. That's okay. If you look for plot holes and things like that, I'm sure you'll find them. But I think that in this case, I think that one of the strengths of this particular film was the storyline, which we've seen the idea of Barry's mom dying and him trying to go back into time to stop that. We saw that in a bit of that in the TV series, in the Flash TV series, which is wildly successful. So it's not anything that's necessarily new. Just like you kind of just know the murder of Batman's parents or Bruce Wayne's parents was a big deal, right? So it's kind of, we know different storylines and the different backstories of different heroes, and so this is a major one for the Flash with Barry Allen, and so this comes up in the film, but he tries to go back and prevent the murder of his mother, but inadvertently, where he gets knocked out of that, the whole situation gets disrupted on his way back after he prevents it. He makes a move or whatever. We gotta check it out to prevent that, but it gets disrupted. So he accidentally, inadvertently, created a world where there are no superheroes. So when it comes down to when General Zod invades Earth, or he shows up in a world where Superman would have been there to stop him, and from his time, that's what ended up happening. There is no Clark Kent, there is no Kal-El who made it to Earth and all that. So that whole thing was just completely changed. And so now he gets to a point where now he has to stop Zod, and then it causes a whole mess, and then he has to end up repairing. But I think again, the overall storyline I think was pretty good. But again, now if you're not big into the whole time travel thing, or you get kind of confused by that, let you know that is a big part of the film, a huge part of the film. But that if you can kind of deal with that, you may agree with me that this was one of the strengths of the film. The second thing I think was a strength of the film was the appearance of Supergirl, played by Sasha Calle. And by the time she is introduced, I will admit I was starting to kind of nod off a bit in the theater. I started to fall asleep. Now, not because the film was terrible up to this point. I think I was just tired. But when she does appear, she brings a different edginess and attitude to the movie that was lacking up until that point. And it's to the point where she just grabs your attention. It's just a different attitude and a different just demeanor, and just a kind of aura, I believe, like she brought to the character that just kind of grabs your attention. And then honestly just kind of keeps it there all the way through, like every time she appears on screen. And it does, and it just was lacking that up until that point. And so by the time she pops up, that's that. Now I will say that it would have been a good thing it would be a great thing if this was the Supergirl of the DCEU going forward. But I did see something a little while ago before I saw the film, saying that James Gunn wasn't going to use her, like Sasha Calle was not going to play Supergirl. That could change, or I could be wrong, but I remember hearing that that was going to be the case, which I think would be terrible because this was a good introduction to her. But again, if they don't use her again, that's definitely I think an L for them. Hopefully they rethink that. But I say all that to say that I think that she brought a great, Sasha brought a great, did a really good job of bringing that character and kind of bringing her to life and really giving her that edginess and attitude. So anyway, I think that was a big strength of the film. The other thing I think was a strength of the film was the suit. Now, listen, in these superhero films, for those who are fans, the suits are not a small thing, right? So it's cool. I like that this was not. It was a lot different from the metallic, looking suit from Justice League. It was like a slicker design, lit up when he ran and things like that. It would just I think it was pretty. It just was cool to see that visually. I think it added a different element to him, to those running sequences and things like that. I'm not a big fan of the whole the way he was running in the film, honestly, but I think that the suit was pretty dope. I like the different upgrades and the different look that they gave him for the film. I think was also good. Now, some people may say it's a minor detail, but I think it still added a different element to the film that visually I think was pretty dope. So the last thing I'll say about what I think were strengths of the film is towards the end of it, and you see Ezra Miller, the Flash or Barry Allen, when he goes back into time and realizes that his mother's murder has to happen, right? He goes back and he sets things up in a way that really ensures the fact that she's going to die. And that the moment when he realizes that, he has that moment where he has the conversation with her, unbeknownst to her that she's actually talking to her son. But that moment where he does a really good job of bringing out that emotion of realizing that my mom, I'm essentially a bystander and kind of not necessarily saying he's the one who is killing her, but to feel that way and to feel like I could stop this. But if I stop this, I realize it's going to cause a lot of stuff, a lot of issues, residual, or just a lot of issues, a lot of complications with time and things like that, and different events. But to him to realize, to have the opportunity to see her again and realize that that's going to get ripped apart, he does a really good job of bringing that out and really the emotions behind that. That's why I mentioned earlier that Ezra Miller is showed me that he's a really good actor. I didn't really watch a lot of his movies before that, unless I'm forgetting something. But so I'm not a big follower of his. But I will say that he does a really good job of bringing that out in a moment where you want to see that happen. Now let's talk about the things that I don't think were so strong about the film. Number one, Ezra Miller. Now, this is not to say that Ezra Miller is not a talented actor. He is. However, for this role, I don't think that he is the best pick to play the Flash. Now, obviously, he's played Flash in Justice League, so we've seen him as the Flash before. But in this film, it just came off as just super whiny, throughout it, and it just wasn't a very strong, I feel, depiction of the Flash. Now, generally speaking, I mean, for the most part, in the cartoons and things like that, or the animated series, or times where Flash kind of pops up, he pops up as this witty, dude or whatever. He wasn't even that in this film. He just was very whiny, kind of just not a really strong the presentation of a hero and like just kind of like manly masculine. It just wasn't that to me. And I think that took away, especially with him being the main character in the film. It just didn't translate. Like some of the dialogue and some of his mannerisms, it just lost me at different points. That's why when I said earlier about Supergirl, her making that appearance, that was the first time in the film I feel like, yo, whoa, this is there's someone coming, there's someone appearing in the film that has like an edge to him, like an attitude that isn't forced, that comes off as really naturally, and it's just not. And it came off with Supergirl, and it come off with him, and so I just don't think he was the best pick for the film personally, and I think that his what he brought to the role and that depiction of Flash really kind of took away and was kind of distracting at different points to me. Number two, and this is maybe number one, and this is an issue. This is the thing, right? With the DCEU, it's been a long-standing issue. Is the CGI? This CGI game is like trash. Like, I try to be courteous with, we're giving the critiques and stuff like that, but I just can't do it in this point. It just was just trash. At different points CGI was cool. Other points it just was trash. Like the scene where Supergirl, Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman, and his younger self, Flash's younger self, were going off and they were going to fight Zod, and the part where they were kind of like teaming up, the CGI, like the face, it just looked bad, y'all. It just looked bad. And so, but this is an issue that it's not just been here in the Flash. I mean, let's go back to Justice League with, Henry Cavill's like the whole mouth stash situation, and just Wonder Woman when she's fighting Ares at the end of it. It just looked. I mean, we know it's fake, but it just looks fake. You know what I'm saying? If that's even a fake. And the CGI work, man, it just isn't. I don't know what the changes. It's almost like, I'll say this, it was on brand. But in this case, it's not in a positive way. It's not that this is a positive element of their brand. It just wasn't good, man. CGI, DCEU, James, whatever y'all need to do, man. Whoever the team is, team member, team, whatever. I'm not a CGI expert, and I know these things are much more complicated, I'm sure, than moviegoers realize. But it just wasn't it for me. It just wasn't it. So I would say the CGI is definitely one of the weaknesses of the film. So another thing is, my number three is that it is really slow up in the beginning. They're building the storyline and things like that, but it's just very slow. I mentioned earlier that I had started nodding off in the film. Now, part of that was because I was a little bit tired, but also it just wasn't. It just was slow. By the time I think it picks up when Supergirl pops up, and I keep bringing up Supergirl. When she pops up, it just kind of in my opinion, it's kind of brought me up. It made me pay attention. But before that, it was just a bit slow. It's slow, and just going back to what I said about Ezra Miller, the whininess of it. It just was annoying and distractive, and that was just compounded with the fact that it was just a pretty slow build up, in my opinion. So overall, I would give the Flash movie a 7 out of 10 for a plot twist 2 and 5 score. 7 out of 10. I was borderline going to say 6.5, but I'm going to go with 7. I would not pay to watch this film again, but I would watch it with someone if they hadn't seen it before or something like that. So again, it wasn't terrible, but it just was not great either. So there you have it. But let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe I missed something. Maybe it's something that you thought was terrible about the film that I didn't say. Maybe it's something you thought that was great about the film that I did not say. Maybe you feel differently. I'm all for it. Let me know what you think, and maybe some other folks may want to chime in as well. I don't know where DC goes from here. Now, I will say this. I'm looking forward to the Blue Beetle coming out. I'm not even really really know much about Blue Beetle. And the background of the character or whatnot, but I do think that the movie from the trailers looks very Marvel-esque, if that makes sense. In terms of the suit, in terms of some of even the effects, it looks very Marvel-esque to me, which I think is a good thing. I think it deals with some of the different the challenges with some of these other DC films with some of the CGI. I think it may address some of those concerns, and I would imagine complaints from other people. I can't imagine I'm the only one. But I'm looking forward to seeing that movie and just learning a little bit more about the character. Part of me is kind of like, I'm trying to be more open-minded, because part of me is just like, I don't know, I want to see this. I don't know too much about it. But I would be more open-minded to check it out. It does look like it's going to be good. I think it comes out later this month in August. And so there you have it. This is Michael Miles with the Plot Twist 215 with a movie review of The Flash. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to get notifications about future videos, and to give this video a thumbs up if you found that it was valuable to you. So with that being said, y'all, have a great rest of y'all day, and peace.